Hey, welcome back. It is Tuesday. I told you last time that we were starting a murder trial. It's actually a double murder trial. And as of today, a very strange thing is happening. It is still going on. So most of the time when we have a murder trial or rape or any of those type trials, it'll be over and done with in 4 days, maybe 5 days at the most. In this case, we had several issues that came up. It took a lot of sidebar stuff. There was federal and state interaction. There was all kind of things that were going on that delayed the trial. And it's a double murder, but which means there will be 2 defense attorneys. That takes a little longer also. So we should know something, good or bad. I'll report back to you next week. One of the things that come up in every trial, and if you're ever fortunate enough to sit in on one as a juror, what you'll see is a series of questions, and it's like, okay, officer, what did you do on October 5th? The officer say, well, I collected a bullet, and what did you do with that bullet? I stuck it in a sealed envelope, and I put it in my pocket, and then I delivered it to evidence. I delivered it to Tanya at evidence. And you go through the same line of questionings. While that bullet was in your possession, did anybody tamper with it? Nope. Did anybody take it away from you or change it in any way? Nope. Once it was sealed, is there any way for someone to unseal it? Nope. They can unseal it, but you'll see it that it's been cut through. And then you handed it to Tanya. Yes. And then Tanya, I would call her to the stand, and I'd say, Tanya, what's your part in this case? Well, I wasn't at the scene, but Jimmy brought me a bullet, and it was sealed, and there's Jimmy's initials on the seal. Those are mine, and I kept it in evidence. Well, who can come into evidence? Nobody, just me and another evidence technician. If anybody were to have opened that bullet, would you have known about it? Yep. You could see where it had been cut. All right, what did you do with it? Well, I signed it out to Rick, and Rick took it to SLED to be tested. So then I would call Rick up. Hey, Rick, while the bullet was in your custody and control, did anybody tamper with it? Did you ever open the bag? Nope. I simply drove from Conway, South Carolina to Columbia, South Carolina, and I gave it to Betty. All of these witnesses, and if you're a juror, it's really like 10 minutes a piece. But you've got to be like, well, why do I care? Well, here's why you care. We've got to create a chain of custody that shows to the jurors that nobody is trying to plant evidence on anybody. This person took the stand and swore to tell the truth, and they said, I protected it while it was with me, and I handed it off. And I don't have a reason. I don't know anybody from anybody, but I simply took it to Columbia. And then the expert in Columbia would take the bullet and say it was still sealed. I opened the seal, and it hadn't been tampered with. And I tested it against other bullets and found that it was fired from the same gun. That's called a chain of custody, and it's there to protect the defendant's rights, especially in something like DNA. We know all about DNA now. We know that if you bleed, if you spit, if you have skin oil or anything, that can leave DNA. But you can't look at something and say, that is Jimmy's DNA. That is known as fungible or changeable. It's not where the hammer you could recognize because it's got my initials on it, and that's my hammer. But you can't tell that the blood on the end of the hammer belongs to any particular person. So that's why we have to take fungible items, those items that have to be a strict chain of custody, we have to put up all of those witnesses. And a case that may only be about 2 eyewitnesses and a couple of experts will grow into 20 because you got to put a chain of custody together. So if you're ever watching TV, now they shortcut all of that if you're watching Law and Order because it's fairly boring. But if you're ever watching court TV or if you're ever in court, that's why those chain witnesses are there, is to make sure that nobody is doing anything to mess up the defendant's rights. There were several pieces of evidence that were entered in this case, and so there were several chains that had to go up, and it's real short witnesses that as a juror you may say, doggone, I don't know why you keep putting those people up. But anyway, I'll check back with you on Monday or Tuesday of next week and let you know how this trial went and maybe update you on some of the facts of that case.